One of the issues that we have as black people is the fact that we have false leaders and we have people who come in and pose as activists or advocates and everything like that and say they speak for black people, and initially they sound good, and then there's a switch, and the switch is leading towards an anti-black direction. What I mean by this is when I say they're talking good, a lot of them start off with talking against the police because that's the way to get in the door, because we're used to police being defended so often that when somebody talks about the police in a way that they need to be punished or in a way that they need to be checked, we're not really used to hearing that, so we boost that signal when we hear it. So they get in good with talking about the police, and then next thing you know, there's, okay, well, let's talk about how black people need to be more welcoming to the LGBT or a buck breaking agenda, or let's talk about immigration, let's talk about how black men are oppressive to black women, let's talk about intersectionality. They switch from police brutality, which is how they get in the door, and now they're talking about other things, sexism, all these things that are not me saying they're not issues, but they are not equivalent to the struggle black people face. Now, Tamika Mallory is a good example of this because she started her career off talking about the police, and that's kind of how she got her credibility, being an activist and everything like that against police brutality. And she has like a little switch every now and then. Every now and then she kind of has a switch where she changes the direction of where black people are heading to. Here, she says something very off code. She compares black struggle to sexism and even says sexism can arguably be worse.
In Georgia. Now, I will say that when you think about the issue of Kamala Harris and what she will or will not be able to accomplish, you're going to have to start talking about sexism, which I would argue is almost worse than, maybe worse than, racism in this country.
The issue with that is sexism applies to all women, okay? So what she's saying is that white women have experienced something that is comparable to the black experience, arguably worse. White women have more of a grievance with America than black people do. Even though white women owned slaves, white women were racist, white women lied on black people, white women killed black people, white women tortured black people, white women raped black people. White women participated in every single anti-black action that her white man did. Every single one. The white woman can arguably be more racist than the white man. Everybody thinks that the white man, because he's the muscle and he's the face of white supremacy, the white woman is just actually a damsel and she's being oppressed by the white man, okay? The issue with the white woman and the white man is not our fault. And the thing is that the second the white woman gets to her position where she wants to be in comparison to the white man, she's targeting black people. White women don't uplift black women. White women do not uplift black women. Their struggles cannot be compared, okay? America was built off of anti-black racism, not sexism, not homophobia, not transphobia, not fatphobia, not anti-immigration, none of those things. Another young woman who went to like a city hall and she was talking about the police, yada yada yada, and everybody boosted that. That went viral. People started streaming that, people started making videos about that, giving her all these props for talking about the police.
I'm not nice and I don't seek to be respectable. I'm not asking y'all for anything because y'all can't and won't be both my savior and my oppressor. I don't want reform. I want to turn this building into luxury low-cost housing. These will make some really nice apartments to me. Firstly, stop using black children as photo opportunities because they're cute now, but in 10 years, they're black male suspect in red shirts and khaki shorts. Eating cookies and drinking milk with children does not absolve you of your complicity in their oppression and denigration, Rick Smith. Because Kansas City will spend more on police than education and then try to encourage children to feast with their oppressors. Y'all are really weird.
mind you, this is how these fake activists start to get into the picture. They get their credibility through talking about the police, because that's an easy thing anybody can do. Oh, the police, they need to be held accountable. The police this, the police this, the police do this, the police do this. That's an easy way to get in. And once they get in, they start talking about, okay, let's talk about trans, because that's the bigger issue. Let's not talk about building a black economy. Let's not talk about building black families. Let's talk about transgenders. Let's talk about having same gender bathrooms. Let's talk about women. Let's talk, and when they say women, they are not exclusive to black women. They are not exclusive to black women. They're saying women in general. Let's talk about this. And then they'll go on and diss black men. Okay? These people are not allies. These people are not activists. These people are planted in the community because white people know that there will be a black movement regardless. They cannot stop that. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to get ahead of that. Now they know black people are starting to wake up, and a lot of black people, not all, and we will talk about that later in the video, but a lot of black people are not going to tolerate a white face being the figurehead of the movement. So what they'll do is they'll mold a black person to follow the directions of a white person, and then they'll put the black person out and they'll signal boost that black person, so that black person goes on talking about, oh, the police, the police, the police, and then next thing you know, that black person is talking about, okay, well, we got to talk about homophobia. We got to talk about how black people are homophobic. Black people have been the most welcoming to the LGBT community historically than anybody else. Okay, so we are the last people to be checked about homophobia. Okay, and even if we were, we cannot oppress homosexuals. We cannot oppress them. We do not have the power to oppress anybody. A black man and a black woman doesn't have the capability to oppress anybody. We don't. So the fact that people are saying we're homophobic, okay, because we might make some gay jokes sometimes. They don't say that about the white community. They don't say that about the Asian community. They don't say that about the Latino community. They'll go to the black people and say, you're homophobic. They do this because they push an agenda. Now it is a black woman, if she doesn't want to date a bisexual man, a man that likes to sleep with women and men, then she's biphobic. She is biphobic. She has a phobia of bisexual people because she does not want to date somebody. They're saying you're homophobic, biphobic, transphobic for not participating. Now it's not, do you accept me for who I am? Now it is, I want to sleep with you. And if you do not want to sleep with me, then you're blah, blah, blah phobic. You're something phobic. That is the agenda that they're pushing. These fake activists are pushing. They'll also push the agenda of a black man. If a black man says, I do not want to date a trans, I don't want to date somebody who is trans, they'll say that's transphobic. These are what the fake activists do, that white people come in and white people monitor black people. So they mold activists that seems like they're from the grassroots, and they talk about the police to get some type of credentials. And once they get those credentials, next thing you know, they shift the conversation. The conversation isn't about police brutality anymore. That leaves their lips, and it's all about sexual access. It's all about the LGBT. It's all about trans. It's all about immigration. Going back to Tamika Mallory. Tamika Mallory is also caping for Joe Biden.
Immigration, you know, obviously stopping this stupid wall that they're building. Yeah. He dealt with the Muslim ban, getting rid of the Muslim ban. He dealt with making sure that I think 11 million people will become citizens. So he's doing things, right? But with black folks, you can't just sign something to say stop killing black people. It's not that simple.
And notice that these fake activists, they'll come off, they'll talk about the police, they'll talk about black issues, they'll get credibility. Next thing you know, it seems like they're bought and paid for by the Democrats because they're following along with whatever the Democrats need black activists to follow along with. They're the ones who are saying, oh, we gotta vote or we're gonna die. We gotta get Trump out. We gotta get Trump out. Why are you guys saying that Kamala Harris is racist? Why are you guys saying that Joe Biden is racist? Oh, she's a black woman. Oh, Joe Biden, he might have made some mistakes with the crime bill and segregation and just being racist or whatever, but we still gotta vote for him because he's better than Trump somehow. These are the same black activists that you'll see, and they're pushing the narrative that black people are attacking Asians randomly and that Asians deserve a hate crime bill. Never mind the fact that there have been decades and decades of unpunished hate crimes from Asians to black people, from everybody to black people, completely unpunished. Nobody says that, first off, it's not a hate crime, and nobody says that we deserve a special bill specifically for us. Nobody's bombed Asians like we've been bombed, but they're getting a hate crime before us. And these fake activists are pushing this, and not only will they get a hate crime, this will justify the police and this will justify anti-black laws against us. I need you guys to remember, stop and frisk was not supposed to be a racial thing. They don't put in the books, okay, this is to target black people, but that's how they apply the law. We have to pay attention to that because they can say, okay, we're just going to stop and frisk people who look suspicious, and then 90% of the people they stop and frisk are black people. So if they're pushing the narrative out that black people are randomly attacking Asians, despite the fact that Asians put their businesses in black communities because they know that black people are really the only people who are going to support them, despite that fact, they're pushing the narrative that black people are randomly attacking Asians because we hate them because of the coronavirus, despite the fact that Donald Trump and Trump supporters were calling the coronavirus the Chinese virus, the Kung Fu virus. Despite that fact, they're pushing that narrative, and that's going to be harmful to black people because once they get their laws passed, which they have already done, once they get all that stuff set, now any interaction between a black person and an Asian, it's the narrative of, okay, blacks are racist to Asians, so the black person is automatically going to be in the wrong. That's going to lead to black people who are going to be attacked by Asians, and if we defend ourselves, then it's going to be considered a hate crime. This is what these fake activists are doing. Before we follow anybody, before we boost anybody, we have to check their paperwork, okay? We have to check, okay, where are you coming from? Who is funding you? What is your agenda for black people? You don't get to just come in saying, oh, blah, 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 police, police, police. And then the second you talk about the police, well, let's talk about the LGBT. Well, let's talk about anti-Asian hate. None of that, okay? You are to stick to an agenda. If you are to be signal boosted, if the community is to back you, you have to back the agenda of the community. The second you drop the agenda of the community, you get dropped, okay? As a people, we need to do our due diligence on everybody, because they'll send people out. They'll send there was this one dude, forgetting the name, Grandmaster DJ or whatnot, and he was a part of the the Not Fucking Around coalition, where they were walking around with guns and stuff like that. Out of the blue, just came up and got all of this credibility. We need to check the paperwork on all of these agents that are sent in here. Remember how Fred Hampton was killed? Fred Hampton was killed because the FBI and the police sent an agent into the Black Panther Party. We have to vet everybody constantly. You don't just get in saying, I agree with Black Lives Matter, or I agree with punishing the police. That's not enough to get in anymore, and that's definitely not enough to be a spokesperson. And even if you are a spokesperson who's been speaking about this, you still getting checked. You are still getting checked, okay? So the second you say something that's off code, the second you say something that's bad for the agenda, the second you switch gears, the community is gonna check you and we're gonna drop you. Okay, there are not going to be any more fake activists. There are not going to be any more agents in our community.